You are listening to episode 44 of the Lewis and Kyle Show with Evan Carmichael.
I think your purpose comes from your pain. So once you struggle through something and you find, the how to get out, you then want to keep doing it and teach other people how to do it too. So modeling success was the thing that got me out of the hole I was in with my company. So what have I done for the past 20 years? Same thing, modeling success. I'm trying to teach you what I'm learning from Elon Musk and Oprah Winfrey and Bill Gates and all these people.
Hello and welcome to the Lewis and Kyle Show. If you're new here, welcome. We're really grateful that you chose to listen to our podcast. Lewis and I are college students at the University of Alabama, sharing what we learned from conversations with super smart people. We've had entrepreneurs, rappers, programmers, CEOs, and more on our show to talk with us. Our goal in these conversations is to uncover the principles that led to their success and share the best ideas that we find with you, our audience. Today, we have Evan Carmichael on our show. Evan believes in entrepreneurs. At 22, he was a venture capitalist raising $500,000 to $15 million after successfully exiting his own startup. Now, he runs a YouTube channel for entrepreneurs with over 2 million subscribers and 400 million views.
Yeah, we recorded this conversation on Thanksgiving morning, which was pretty fun for us. We did just a short 25 minutes or so with Evan. He has this video on his channel, which is if you're about to interview him, this is what you should know. And he says, treat this like a private coaching call, because that is how, from what I've learned, will be the greatest benefit to both yourselves and your audience, because we'll get to know you as the hosts better. So we took him up on that challenge and kind of just had a private conversation with him, asking him what were our personal most driving questions. And he shares his answers on that. It's a 20-minute conversation, super fun, super high energy, because Evan, I think he bounces on a trampoline when he does podcasts, believe it or not, which is pretty interesting. And those of you on video can kind of watch him bounce, which is cool. But it's a fun conversation, short and sweet, and I hope you all will enjoy it.
Evan, thank you very much for coming on our show. We're really excited to have you.
Thanks for the love, guys. Good to be here.
Awesome. So my first question for you, and it kind of plays in your story. While reading about you and looking into you, there's this character that I think is really beautiful, and that is Mrs. Farr. So could you tell me a little bit about what Mrs. Farr meant to you, and how someone can find their own Mrs. Farr, or if they have to be their own?
Yeah, this is great. I don't think I've ever been asked this question. So what a great one to kind of lead off on. So Mrs. Farr was a high school mentor of mine, where going through high school, my parents kind of expected me to get A's, and my sisters all got A's, and I was getting B's and C's pretty consistently. I wasn't failing out of school. I could do it, but I just never really applied myself. And then in my last year of high school, we get assigned a teacher mentor. And I didn't even know what that meant, but basically they said, hey, yeah, you get a teacher mentor. If you have questions or you're struggling, or you want to meet up, then here's a teacher who can kind of guide you or mentor you. And most students never actually met with their teacher mentor. They didn't really do anything with them. And Mrs. Farr said, okay, let's just start meeting weekly. I said, okay. I just thought it was normal. I said, this is what you do. So every, Thursday morning, whatever it was, that we would meet before school started, and she would just help me and ask me how I was doing and give me some guidance and suggestions and believed in me. And it was one thing to have my parents believe in me. They always, thought I could do anything, but somebody who's kind of related in the world. So she was actually teaching there, believing in me and not giving me hacks or anything. It was just really the extra belief that then that last year I got straight A+. Then got a full, scholarship to university and all that stuff, which I thought I can get a university. And now this is 20 years ago. So people may not want to be going to university anymore, but 20 years ago is still a thing. And so I think it was super helpful to have somebody who believed in me. I think every step along the way, whenever I doubted myself, whenever I felt like it wasn't possible, whenever I felt like I'm not good enough and I can't do this and I don't have it's just not in me, I just had to realize that somebody else has already figured this out, and I just need to find the right model to follow and have the right mentors around me to help push me. And I've discovered, listen, if you don't have anybody in your life like that, people may be watching, listening, thinking, I don't have anybody who's like that. I don't know how to find someone like that. You can even get it through what I call aspirational mentors. The people on the wall behind me. This guy is my favorite entrepreneur of all time. His name was A.P. Giannini. I'm never going to meet him. He died. But I can still learn a lot from him, and I can still be trained by him through content that he's put up and interviews and books that are about him. So whatever you want to do, somebody has done it. It's possible. Somebody with less resources, less money, less skills, less talent than you, they've done it. So you can do it too. If you just start to surround yourself with them and have that part of your daily routine, because your environment right now has been perfectly designed to keep you where you are.
Thank you so much for sharing that story with us. And I completely agree with that message. Ever since I listened to your interview on the Book Thinkers podcast with Nicholas Hutchison, and you explained, the process of your book, Your One Word, and how for you that word's belief, it's kind of been going through my head, the importance of it. And I've kind of been thinking about it as a skill where there's practices you can come at to make yourself better at believing in yourself. So what are some ways that you recommend people get better at the skill of believing in themselves? What are some actions they can take or some resources they could use to really increase that capacity in themselves? Because it's so important.
Yeah. So two things. One is to be constantly inspired and pulled forward. So, if you see what Nick did and that inspires you, great. Nick's putting out content all the time. Like that should be in your Instagram feed to see, hey, this is what's possible, this is what I can do. I do it through my YouTube channel, right? We just crossed 400 million views on the main channel, which is crazy. But I still make my videos for me because I want to be around Elon Musk and Oprah Winfrey and Steve Jobs and these people. They're not taking on interns or, I can't just go spend a month with Elon Musk, right? So I want to be around them every day, and I use it through my own content. So I make my content for me and then I share it with the world. So every time I watch one of the videos, it pulls me up because it's easy to stay where you are. It's easy to stay comfortable and stay safe and not push for the next big scary thing. But being around them daily, whether it's, actually in person, but more likely online through books, through podcasts, through YouTube channels, however you learn best, being around that daily to get inspired, to know that it's possible, to have the hope that I could do something as well. Because if you shut all that off and then you're just listening to your friends or your parents or your family, chances are they love you, but they just don't have as much ambition as you. And so if you're the most ambitious person that that's a problem. Now you guys have each other, which is awesome. Maybe one day Kyle's down and now you're pushing him, or maybe one day Kyle's on top of the world and he's pushing you, right? It's awesome to have each other. But to be around people who are even much bigger, to be inspired to want to take a next step forward that the people around you may not even understand. Like you're going to start this show from your bedroom when your mom's like, you're going to do what? That doesn't make sense. Like, great, I'm doing it, right? Because I've seen these other people do it, right? Step number 2 though. So inspiration is awesome. And that has to be daily, but that's not enough. You can be inspired to do something, but it doesn't count until you actually do anything, right? Just sitting on inspiration doesn't help you. So the next step is actually doing the scary thing. I have 2 things that I use. One is if I say scary, difficult, or hard, that means I have to do it. Starting this show maybe was scary for you. Starting the show, reaching out to people, having people come on, maybe that was a scary thing for you. Even Nick, I pushed him in what we're doing, Instagram Live. I pushed him on an Instagram Live to say, you're too safe. You're too comfortable. Like you're the guy who's all about progress. That was his one word. Yep. You're the guy who's everybody looks to and says, look at how much you're doing. Look at this account that you've built up. Look at the impact you're having. But dude, you're playing small. Like you could be doing so much more. You need to be doing something scarier. And so that launched his podcast where now he's bringing on, I was his first guest, but then he's brought on Grant Cardone and all sorts of other authors who otherwise he might have been scared to reach out to say, hey, join me on my show. And now he's done this new scary thing. So if it's scary, if it's difficult, if it's hard, then you have to teach yourself that you have to do the thing. So it's getting inspiration. That inspiration is this momentary burst that gives you the courage to then go and do the thing. Because ultimately your belief in yourself will come from doing the thing, right? The question was, how do I build more self-belief? Ultimately, it's going to come from doing the difficult things. So the inspiration gives it the extra courage to do it. Then you have to go off and do it. Now doing a show for you maybe isn't as nerve-wracking. It's like, okay, we know what we're doing. We know the setup. We know the technology. We know how it works. Kyle and I got a good flow going on. We know how this is happening. Maybe now it's reaching out to the next guest, the next level up, the next, I don't know if that person's going to say yes, or, I'm going to DM them and they read it, but they didn't respond to me. It hurts my heart. Like that next level up, right? And every time you take that next step, you believe in yourself to do that step again.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And you know, Nick has helped us, and you helped Nick to get out of his comfort zone and create what he's creating. So it's really cool to think about that in terms of your butterfly effect that you're having in the world. Like through 1 degree of separation, you know, you got from Nick to us because we recorded with Nick, and he's been a good mentor to us. But it's pretty incredible to think about how wide that butterfly effect could really be. You know, when you get 1, 2, 3, 4 degrees of separation away. But the next question that I have for you is, how do you temper your beliefs to the people that are being directly affected by the outcome?
Yeah, it's a balance. And I don't think I think for you, if anything, you're going to have to go the other way. Like you're so worried. And I own a piece of this too. You're so worried about being that guy that you're never going to be that guy, but you have to be careful about not believing enough.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be the guy who comes up with this great vision all the time and is promising the people around you the moon and then not deliver. You're going to be terrified of under delivering the people. Like how much
Mm-hmm.
in your life have you told somebody you're going to do something and promised something and then didn't show up for them?
Not often.
Your problem is going to be the opposite. Your problem is going to be not actually taking a big enough bet when you should have. Your problem is going to be not actually pushing further, not going for that guest or not taking the opportunity because you're afraid of letting people down around you so much that you don't take the bold bet that you need to. And this is where Lewis or, you know, people around you can try to catch it in you and say, no, dude, we can do this. Like your intention isn't to hurt anybody. Your intention is not to go off and create a fake world for people and promise them something and then not deliver. But as you grow, like this is what keeps a lot of entrepreneurs stuck. And it's great to recognize this pattern kind of early on in life, because as you start to build a business, great. Now what? It's the two of you for now, which is great. But then what happens when you bring on team members? What happens when you've got 20 people working for you? How do you recruit the next people onto your team? You have to give them the belief that it's going to be better working for you than wherever else they're working right now. And then you have to work your face off to actually go help them actually execute it. So you're not promising something fake, but you have to you have to help them believe in a better future for themselves and then actually work with them to make that happen. My biggest fear is disappointing people. My biggest fear is I'm going to let people down, that I'm going to show up somewhere and that people paid money to buy my book. And then they'd say, wow, that's a waste of money. That was a waste of my time. It's my biggest fear. And that held me back for a long time. And maybe probably still does in a bunch of areas. I'm concerned I'm not going to bring enough value to somebody. And so my advice to you is still what I need, just for the next level, right? Just be aware of where you're not playing big enough because you're afraid of this thing.
Yeah, thank you for that was a really valuable perspective there. I enjoyed listening on that because I have a lot of context and everything else. So I think that was a really great answer.
You could be the best friend to Kyle by doing that. It's like, no, this is Kyle. We're playing small here. We're not going to disappoint people. We have to do this thing.
Absolutely. Well, I think you're helping us not play small by sharing this time with us because you're a great, huge guest for us. So that's really, really exciting and helps build our belief. So I have a question for you, kind of based on what you're saying about you don't want to be the most ambitious person you know. You don't want to be the most extreme person you know, because then you're capped at your own levels. You are someone I can clearly identify as more extreme and more passionate about self-development and motivation than I am, which people around me would say is impossible, obviously. So someone like yourself who's read all the books and thought about every thought leader and every entrepreneur, what book have you come back to as the one you reread the most times and why?
None. I'm not a big reader anymore.
No? Then what, maybe a video clip? Do you just over and over, you can just watch?
For me, so I used to be a big reader. I think the key is learning more than reading. I recognize that I'm much more of a visual learner, so I'd rather see it than read it. So the fact that I can see you guys here, even if it's going to be an audio podcast, for example, is better for me, because if it was audio only, I'd have to super focus and close my eyes and just listen to your voice, because audio is the worst way for me to learn. So I guess what's awesome now is in 2020, 2021, we've got so many ways to learn, whether it's a podcast or books or videos. But learning is what's important. I think the biggest thing that's helped me is I don't go back to watch any one video over and over again or read any one book. I'm sure there's some books, Romance of the Three Kingdoms. The book is called Three Kingdoms. It's about the Han Dynasty, the Chinese warriors. I read that book every couple of years and always pick up something from it. But for the most part, I need the variety that speaks more to me than doing the same thing again. I find if I watch the same video 10 times, oh yeah, I know it's coming. Oh yeah, he did a great job there, but it doesn't hit me the way that it hit me the first time or the second time. Every time I watch it, loses its efficacy a little bit. So my solution to that has been to make my channel.
I was gonna say, yeah, your channel is a very authentic, clear answer to that personality match.
That's what I'm doing, so that I want to be around. We've identified here are the people that I want to learn from and I want to be around. And even so, if we pick someone like Elon Musk, for example, we've done, I don't know how many videos on Elon Musk, a bunch. Even his message is fairly consistent of what he talks about and what he does, but his stories might change or the way he delivers it might change. It's always something fresh. And it's that push again to say, okay, yes, Evan, come on, we got to play a bigger game. Let's go. Like if you want to play a bigger game, Elon Musk is one of the greatest guys to learn from, because he's thinking whenever, no matter how big I think he's thinking about like backup plan for the universe, right? Like backup plan for the planet. We got to go to Mars because just in case Earth blows up, right? Like it's just too big a scale compared to what I'm used to. So I like being around those guys for me, but if I hear him say the same speech all the time, it's not going to impact me the same way. So I'm grateful there's so much content being put up. There's so many interviews that are being put up that you can learn from. And so I need the variety. I need the variety more than reading the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. And for me, it's like the power comes when you are getting that variety, but you're getting the same lesson over and over again. So you hear something from Elon Musk, but then you hear it from your favorite entrepreneur there behind you, just in different contexts. It's like, wow, maybe there's something to that. But my next question for you is, early on in your career, you were at rock bottom, I think, when you're starting your company, when you were 19 or 20 with a couple of your buddies. It was a biotech company. And you read deeply into Bill Gates and his philosophies. But what practice specifically was it about Bill Gates' operating mentality that you were able to apply to your business in order to get that first sale?
Yeah. So I had a software company, was struggling. I was 19 years old, making no money, $300 a month, working every single day, my face off, and just not getting the results. And I called my business partner. It might've been on a Thanksgiving. It was on a holiday. We're filming this on Thanksgiving. So shout out to you guys for showing up. I'm in Canada, so we celebrate Thanksgiving early. So you guys are the ones on the holidays showing up. I called him and I told him I quit. I can't do this business anymore. I'm tired of feeling worthless and I need to do something else. And then I cried like crazy that night, barely slept. And I woke up the next day and said, I can't quit yet, because I think I'm going to regret it if I don't give it a little bit more. But I just need to find a different way to stand, because what I've been doing has not been working. And I tried a million different things, Kyle. This just happened to be the one that worked, but I didn't have this like eureka moment that, oh my God, my life is about to change. It's just another thing that I tried. I just asked myself, I can't be the first guy to try to build a software company before. Somebody must have done this. Who's done this? And the only guy I could think of was Bill Gates, who started Microsoft. So it wasn't like I did all sorts of research. It was this grand idea. It's just desperation. Who's done this? And I looked at how Bill Gates started, and he blew up Microsoft through partnerships. So he sold software, and his big deal came with IBM, which was the biggest computer company at the time, where every computer from IBM had Microsoft software on it. And that's the deal that blew up Microsoft, that they became a giant company. But Microsoft is already a $7 million company when they made that deal with IBM. And so that was 7 million more than what I had, so how did he get to the first 7? That's what blew him up. But how did he get to the first 7? Still through partnerships. So he found other companies who could potentially use his software. And instead of selling to one-off people like we were doing, he would made a distribution partnership. So, well, that's interesting. Let me try to find, let's try it. I mean, I've tried everything else. Let's try this. And within, I don't know, a couple of weeks, I had my first deal for $13,500 just using a partnership strategy. And that blew my mind. You know, I'm making $500 a month. 13.5K may not seem like a ton of money, but dude, that was money. That was money.
Mhm.
And more, it was hope. It was belief, right? That, oh my gosh, like finally something is actually working out to say I can do this. And, you know, I never met Bill Gates. I still haven't met him yet. I'm looking forward to one day and telling him the story. I didn't even read a full book on him. I don't even know how I found that information. It's like, how did Bill Gates get started? It's probably like a Google search or something. And it said IBM, and then it said MITS Altair and all these other ones. Like, okay, that's how we did it. So let me just try it. And it was as small as that. And then it became the thing that, you know, I think your purpose comes from your pain. So once you struggle through something and you find, you know, the how to get out, you then want to keep doing it and teach other people how to do it too. So modeling success was the thing that got me out of the hole I was in with my company. So what have I done for the past 20 years? Same thing, modeling success. I'm trying to teach you what I'm learning from Elon Musk and Oprah Winfrey and Bill Gates and all these people.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's been one of the lessons that, you know, has been repeated to us in different contexts and is sinking in more and more deeply every time we hear it from a new person with a different example. It's really not that complicated if you just find out the problem you're trying to solve, ask yourself who's done this before, and find and learn from them, and that builds your belief. We've been creating a summit where we've asked 30 successful podcast hosts how they've built an audience, because that's been one of the problems we were having early on, was finding listeners. And from having 30 interactions with people who are successful at that thing, it's really been helpful for building our confidence. But I have one more question for you since we're running up on our time. It's a quick, kind of fun one. Which do you think has had a greater return on investment, building a YouTube channel or learning how to dance the salsa?
That's an interesting question. I met my wife through salsa dancing.
I told him that was going to be your answer.
That's a pretty good ROI. That's a lifetime ROI. I think I would trade the 400 million views for my wife. So
well, see, I'm asking, you know, as a single person has a finite amount of time, I could spend some of it learning to dance. I could spend some of it, you know, snipping up podcasts and more YouTube videos. And I'm like, you know, there's only one on a certain hour. I can only do one of those things. So,
well, it's a little hard to go salsa dancing in COVID right now. But otherwise, salsa dance is great because if you go to a class, one, you're out of your element, right? I didn't know how to dance. I didn't learn. I mean, in North America, we don't learn dancing growing up like you might in other cultures. Like maybe Louis is already an awesome dancer, but I sucked. And so you're also in a group with other people who suck, and you get to see. I think it's so much better if you're trying to meet somebody. It's so much better than just being at a bar or just having a conversation, because you get to see how you actually learn together. Because I think a successful relationship comes down to how much can you learn and grow and build. Even you guys you're in a relationship, right? Just a different kind, but how well can you learn and grow together? Where if you interview one of those 30 people and they say, hey, Kyle, here's what you need to do. And if Kyle's like, ooh, no, I don't know, I don't want to do this. And Louis is like, yeah, I want to do this. That's going to cause friction. Like how you deal with difficult situations while learning is super important. And you can get that through anything. I think dance is a great way to do it. So she's learning, you're learning. How do you have patience? How do you learn? How do you grow? Are you having fun doing it, or just critiquing yourself and the other person the whole time? That plus in a salsa class, you know, I then bought the studio that I met Nina at and own it. You know, we might have 40 people in the class, 20 guys, 20 women. We rotate you through. So you get to know all the women and none of the guys, but that's usually what you're there for, to meet the opposite sex. So you're dancing with somebody for, 2 minutes, you learn something. Okay. Thank you. Good to meet you. And then rotate, and you're dancing, but you're also getting to meet everybody from the opposite sex. So not everybody goes to meet somebody, but most people who come are single. And it's a good chance to meet other people and learn together. So I think you can get that in a couple areas, but I think dancing is one of the easiest because you're automatically partnered up with somebody from the opposite sex.
Well, maybe in the
Sounds like
post-COVID world, I'll come take a class at the studio.
I'm gonna do it. All right, I like it, dude.
it sounds like real life Tinder. It sounds amazing. I think that we are up on our time. We want to respect you and what you've got going on, Evan. But thank you very much for being here and for coming and agreeing to be on our podcast. We're really excited to have you and excited to put this out.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for the love.
And that wraps up our conversation with Evan Carmichael. We're really grateful to speak with him, especially on Thanksgiving, which is the day of gratitude. So it was great to start the morning with him, kind of preaching at us and getting answers to some of our biggest questions. One of my big takeaways was just the fact that Lewis and I, we've created this podcast and it's something great, but there really is a whole nother horizon that if we choose to look out there and try and see that we'll be able to see it. And, just the idea that we can continue to think bigger no matter what we've accomplished up until this point. And then I would just say, he produces a lot of content on motivation and on belief on his YouTube channel. And it's sort of like, how after watching these videos over and over and over again, have you not sort of gotten the point, but to me, and what I sort of learned or heard from him sort of between the lines is that like motivation in the moment is limited, but if you can continually surround yourself with these sources of positive energy, like in the form of Elon Musk or Warren Buffett, as you see on video behind him, he's got four huge entrepreneurs just posted up right behind him whenever he's talking. And it's all just a positive environment around him that allows him to be his best self and be as creative as he needs to be to sort of run this empire that he sits on top of. So yeah, Evan, grateful to you for coming on and for speaking with us.
Yeah, I completely agree with your takeaways, and I think there's a ton of value there. I think thinking bigger is always such a productive exercise and can open, once you lift the limits of your thinking, you lift the limits of your life. That's a quote I really like from The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. A couple of my big takeaways, I completely agree with you about kind of how it's so interesting that someone like this, whose whole MO for 4 or 5 years has just been making motivational videos. Like, why are you still doing this? And I think his answer about my question about what are some practical ways to increase your skill of motivation and your skill of excitement is but it's productive and it's helpful to have sources of motivation on a daily basis. I think something we should all be honest with ourselves is that most of the time, majority of our environments maybe just aren't that motivating. Just being around people who are satisfied with their life, that's not going to motivate you to go do bigger things with your life. That's not going to motivate you to work harder or take risks. You need to find ways to expose yourself to those circumstances. And even someone like Evan, who literally produces these videos and is Mr. Motivation, still feels that, maybe just the majority of people, just because the majority of people you encounter maybe are just happy on the road they're at. And if you want to live bigger, you're going to have to find that to be that source of motivation from somewhere externally, or at least it's helpful to, and making it a daily habit by watching his videos, watching his clips, rereading the same books, having posters and other tangible items and tangible manifestations of motivational concepts will help you get into that state of mind and get to that state of being on a more frequent basis. Another really cool idea was the concept of dead mentors. I like that one a lot. I think it's a common excuse that a lot of people have about the difficulty of finding mentors. And this is something I think that's pretty easy to smash as a not valid excuse for not being able to find a mentor, because lots of people, whether you know it or not, have written books and autobiographies and guides to this, guides to that. There are more resources freely available to anyone who is capable of listening to this podcast on any of those subjects. Evan's favorite mentor of his, someone he looks to most often for wisdom and ideas and as a kind of reference point for like, what would this person do in this situation, or what advice would that person give me? Literally someone who died before he's even born. So if that's not a valid way of seeing another person as kind of your council of advisors, then I don't know what is. Third idea here, I lost count. Maybe it's not the third one, but one I really like, and one that is especially true for Kyle and myself that I can relate to, is the idea that motivation comes from action. So one, watch motivational videos, read good books, talk to cool people. But the other way that you actually build motivation is by building momentum and action, by actually doing things and seeing input lead to output and cause lead to effect. You start to believe in yourself more and realize that, and you just have fun doing it. And so in the context of this podcast, we could be motivated to start it, but the most motivating thing more often than not actually comes from doing it and getting hyped up doing these conversations and meeting these exciting people and putting episodes out there and seeing what happens. That's more motivating than any conversation or any resource could be, is actually doing the thing and seeing what happens. I think Evan's a great role model for being prolific. He puts out so much content, and that has opened the doors for so many different avenues of discovery. His way of kind of just being so willing to come on smaller podcasts like ours and share his ideas with us, that might make one person might listen to this, get on Evan's 254 days of motivation email list and become a humongous fan. So it's still worth it to be that prolific and kind of say yes to opportunities like us. And the last thing I have to say here is about dancing. I definitely, in the post-COVID world, want to get into that because sounds like Evan made a pretty good sales pitch. So I'm going to try to take him up on that and maybe even travel and go to a studio in Canada if the spirit moves me. Super cool meeting him again, like you said, Kyle, in the Thanksgiving spirit, even though we're recording this on the Cyber Monday spirit. It was so cool to meet him. I'm very grateful for him for sharing his time with us, sharing his wisdom with us, and answering our questions. And I hope you all enjoyed the conversation as much as we have. If you want to support the Lewis and Kyle Show because you enjoy listening to us, the most important thing for you to do, in this episode at least, is to leave a 5-star rating or review. That helps us more than just about anything else you can do, unless I give you a different tip next week and say that is the most helpful thing you can do. But this week I've decided just one call to action: leave a 5-star rating or review on Apple iTunes. And if you like this episode, you'll probably like another one of our episodes. So just scroll down the feed, find one you haven't listened to before, and give it a play. That's all for this week, and we'll see you in another week with the next episode. Have a great one. Thanks so much.